All right, everybody, it's the Jerry Metcalf podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. And today we have a great leader in real estate, the Chief Administrative Officer for One Sotheby's International Realty, Vanessa Stabile. Vanessa, thank you for
Hi.
coming on the show.
Good morning, Jerry. Thank you for having me.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
So, as we get started, Vanessa Stabile, I want to be sure because you say it so much more beautifully than me.
Vanessa Stabile.
Stabile.
Yes,
See?
yes, it's my husband's last name. He's Italian Brazilian, so he has a beautiful accent when he says Stabile.
I bet he does. We should bring him on.
We should.
Just so
He's very attractive.
well, I bet he's Italian and Brazilian. I mean, what more could you ask for? But this is about you. So, coming on the show, giving you everybody who's listening to audio, which most of our listeners are listening to the audio, you've heard a little bit about Vanessa before, but let's revisit. You are a powerful woman in business, chief administrative officer for One Sotheby's International Realty. You have a family, you have a sister who's a real estate agent, you have brothers who are developers, your father's a developer who basically was the beginning and the founder of Wynwood in South Florida. And here you are.
Thank you. Yes.
Like, I don't even normally the first question is, how did you become an agent? But how did you, was that why is your background, or how did you get to where you are today? Give us that.
Absolutely. So when I graduated college, I graduated with a communications major. My goal was to represent developers with public relations. So that's how I started my career. So my career started with marketing, marketing developers. Like you said, my background with my father was a developer for many years. My brother's a developer, and then I married a developer. So development has always been in my blood. And so I started with PR, working at the Apple organization. It was a very prestigious PR firm that specialized in PR for developers. So there I got my initial experience in the real estate world and the development world. My background has always been with development, sales, and marketing. So I worked for multiple developers after working in the PR firm, worked for multiple developers, including WCI Communities, a public company, in representing their communities and their developments with their sales and marketing initiatives. And I did that for maybe about 10 years.
Wow.
Yes, and then
Now
I
you
met.
say you did that. You were that was your role being in PR for development, or you were with a specific company for 10 years?
I did first PR for development, and then I worked for multiple developers throughout those 10 years,
Gotcha.
representing
Gotcha.
their developments and their sales
Gotcha.
and marketing campaigns and overseeing their sales initiatives for those developments. And then 2009, I met Mrs. Maya de la Vega, the owner and founder of One Sotheby's International Realty. And she was very intrigued by this development world and this development industry. And I joined One Sotheby's to create the development division in representing developers on an exclusive basis. And so for my first 10 years with One Sotheby's, I created their development division and ran the division. And we went from representing our first developer, which was the W South Beach, David Edelstein, back in 2009, to representing Zaha Hadid's development, 1000 Museum in
Which
downtown
is
Miami.
amazing, by the way.
Yes, yes. So that was my first, that was my 10-year career with One Sotheby's, was leading their development division and leading all of the sales agents within the development division. So coaching them on how to sell exclusive developments, on how to be an in-house agent, on how to market these developments. So that was, what I did. And then during COVID in 2020, May of 2020, it's my 2-year anniversary, I was promoted to chief administrative officer for the whole company. So yes,
Wow.
yeah. So it's been an incredible journey. I've pretty much had almost every position within the company, so I understand all the various departments and how they run. So this was an incredible opportunity I couldn't pass.
You're the kind of guest we need 3 hours with, not 45 minutes. So, but so like the first thing that comes to mind is most people come into real estate, and even when in a role like yours, through the avenue of being a traditional agent. And I bring that up to say, and it's going to lead to a question. Most people see this world from buying a house, and I'm just going to go help somebody buy a house and kind of on the ground in the weeds. You came into this world from the other end of the spectrum. Can you give me, like, through your experience and what you've learned over the years now, what is the difference and what is the advantage? And what is, I'll simplify this. What is the difference between how most people see real estate and how it really works big picture and how you stepped into it big
Absolutely.
picture?
Absolutely. Like you said, I definitely have a different angle on real estate because I come from the developer's mindset and the marketing mindset and the service mindset. So that to me is probably the most important and the greatest advice that I could give real estate agents. Marketing and service is what fuels your business. So from my angle, I working closely with agents, it's really dedicating that time to service your client and really providing that level of attention that the client needs. And that's the knowledge that I bring in because my clients were all developers. As you know, developers have high expectations, high demands. So knowing how to service and provide a level of service to a developer is very demanding. And so that background and that ability of being able to talk to them about market comparables, of being able to talk about to them about marketing strategies, about public relations opportunities, community involvement, all of that is essential. And having that macro vision with your client is so important. So as having that experience, I know how important it is of how to treat your customer, your client.
Well, there's so much at stake. I mean, like, most of our listers and most of our agents and most of our guests on the show are representing, we've had people representing developers, but even in that aspect, there's very much a mindset of the transaction. And not the people are involved, but it's very, even the people, but it's very like in this moment with these people buying this property. How do you I think you've been able to step away because of your experience, but in that, it's when I listen to you, I can hear that you understand there's so much at stake.
There is.
Now, as real estate agents, even when we're selling just like traditional one home, a $5 million home, a $20 million home, a $500,000 home, there's so much at stake for that person in that moment. So, how have you learned? And there's so much more accountability, I would imagine, on the developer end. But what is the most challenging thing about just working with high demand clients, whoever they are? And how have you learned that? And how do you know that you bring that value? What does that evolution of the relationship look like?
Absolutely. I mean, especially in South Florida, we all know how competitive the market is and how aggressive it is, especially in the last 2 years with everything going on. So, understanding the client that you're dealing with and understanding that that client has so many options, you have to set yourself apart, right? And how are you going to set yourself apart? What value are you going to bring to that client to set yourself apart? So whether it's value through the knowledge you have of the market, clients now, that's what they urge the most is knowledge of the market. That's it, you could just in conversations
So
with
much,
everyone you're speaking to, that's what they want
so
to
much
hear. They want
information's missing right now, unless you're agent in the field, but
to exactly.
knowledge. So
So
yeah.
knowledge is extremely important. Understanding your market, really having that in-depth knowledge. I tell our agents all the time. So we released during COVID, we released a partnership with a research consulting firm, and we now have a monthly market report. And we release that market report because we know that that knowledge for our agents is what's going to set them apart with their clients. And so for me that, it's like you said, these clients have high demands, high expectations. They're going at a very fast pace. So understanding how to communicate to them what knowledge you could bring to them, and taking it, up a few steps in terms of the service. So it's not just servicing on them on that particular transaction, but how are you going to build a relationship with them? How are you going to help them if they need schools? How are you going to help them if they need doctors, if they need assistance with anything to get them settled in? I really feel passionate about helping the
Well,
developers and the clients.
to your point, it's like our clients, whether they're developers or whatever level of homeowner, guess what? They're people too.
Exactly. They all have all sorts of needs, whether it is, I remember I helped one of our development clients. Their CMO had just moved down to South Florida and she needed a nanny. Simple as that. Something just as simple as helping her find a nanny. That to her meant the world. So that said, those types of services and really thinking outside the box and really helping your client in other aspects, not just the transaction, is it's what they're going to remember.
So it's knowing the market, understanding the market, listening to their needs, and understanding their needs might go beyond what the market is in actual real estate. And in doing that, we tap into service. And service is the obvious, but service is also, I think this is where everybody misses the mark. I hear people say, okay, like I ask people, what can I do for them? You need to look for what you can do for them. And in that, build rapport.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's observing, it's having communication and understanding what they need and anticipate their needs so that you can help service that. So, tying that into my current role, that's, why I feel that this is the role I was meant for. I came from development, sales, and marketing, but now taking on the chief administrative role, I feel, this is the role I was meant for because my goal with the culture of this company is to really provide service, not only to our agents, but to our staff. So it's, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
you
where,
got so your job, just so everybody understands, you're in charge of operations, you're in charge of taking care of the staff and motivating agents in that
correct,
aspect. You're not the only one, obviously, but you oversee that and growth.
correct,
It's a
correct.
lot.
Yes, it's a lot, but I love it. I've been in this role for 2 years, and like I said, I feel like this is what I was meant for. I love leading the young generation of our staff. A lot of our staff are millennials, so I love really coaching them and engaging with them to understand how the level of service is important in their industry. And I love working with the agents and helping the agents with their business.
So
So
I'm about to take this in two directions,
go ahead.
but I'm going to have two questions. I'm going to warn you ahead what they are, but I'm going to ask you to answer one first. We're talking about demanding clients, which I think in our business as real estate agents, who are most of our listeners and business people, the two things that are hardest is realizing how to have conversations and deal with demands and deal with competitive markets, especially what you're in. And the other one is how do you lead and oversee so many people and keep it all together and do it in a way that everybody's doing their job. But let's go back to number one,
Okay.
because we're expanding. In number one, you've dealt with so many demands, so much competition, you've risen to the top quickly. Like going on the ground, what is your biggest lesson learned in having demanding clients understand your value and navigating difficult conversations?
I would say my biggest lesson learned is how to keep the customer calm and secure that you're going to come through with what you're going to deliver. I think that giving them the assurance and the comfort and the confidence that you're going to deliver is the most important.
Well, I mean, obviously, that's easier said than done, though.
Yes.
Like when I'm upset and somebody says to me, I understand, I'm like, says who? No, you don't. Or we wouldn't be here right now.
But I think that, yes, I think
Right?
that level of attention, that level of security, that level of confidence is very, very, very important.
And to your point, you really can't fake. This is quoting. I quote Thomas Wright all the time. You can't fake confidence.
No,
Confidence comes from knowing your market. And
exactly.
when you guys release those reports that are rare, the good ones, you guys have a good one. I've seen it. Read it, because
Exactly.
what it brings to you when you're at the cocktail party or in a heated conversation or a heated negotiation is literally a difference of $100,000 commission or a 10, 20, whatever price point you're in, sell million sell. It literally is. Back to your point. Okay, let's go back to your role as
Okay.
agents. A lot of agents are interested in how do I have a new name for this, level up with leverage. In other words, the market's demanding. I've got a lot of clients asking for a lot. My business is building up. The velocity of this market is insane. I need to be able to handle people with high demands. And I also need to be able to handle, I need support. And at the end of the day, you need a great broker like one Sotheby's,
Yes.
but you also need to know how to navigate your own support and level up with that leverage, because some people can have all the support in the world, and if you don't know what to do with it, you get nowhere. And that leads me to your role.
Okay. Yes.
Look at what you do. Look at all, it's not an easy job.
It's
You've
definitely
got a
not easy.
lot to oversee. How do you lead? How do you pull it all together to get the results?
You're dealing on a daily basis with many different personalities, many different avenues, whether it's an agent, whether it's a staff member, whether it's a partner that's providing you a service for the company, vendors. You're dealing with so many different groups of individuals and people. The truth, I mean, I value myself in being very, very, very organized. Organization has always been key with my career, but it's understanding who I'm speaking to and understanding what they need out of our relationship so that I can help deliver. That's really for me, observing and understanding the individual I'm speaking to is very, very important. So whether it's a staff member, if I'm understanding what they're going through on a personal level, what they need to grow professionally, that for me is the most important. I sit, I speak with them, I dedicate the time because that's really all people want, right? So for my staff, that's the most important is letting them know they have someone that they could rely on and someone who really cares about their future and their growth. When it comes to my agents, letting them know that we care about their business. All we do, my team and I, all of our different departments, our transactions department, our listings department, our agent services department, our office managing brokers, all we do on a weekly basis when we gather is try to come up with strategies on how we can help the agents grow their business. What tools are they going to need? What marketing assets are they going to need so that they can go to their clients? That's all we do on a weekly basis as leadership here in the company. So it's really understanding what every single individual needs to make it work.
And what I hear, there are two things. Number one, have it together. Be organized. Know where your stuff is. take the time.
Get it
Sharpen
together.
the saw.
Get it
Right.
together.
Sharpen the saw. Do not try to cut that tree down if the saw is not sharpened. Just slow up, sharpen the saw.
And in this market, organization and structure is what's going to set you apart too, because there's so much competition out there right now. And if you don't have the proper structure in place, whether it's you as an individual agent or as a team, because you're seeing a lot more teams now, you have to be structured and organized because you could easily get distracted.
Well, and to your point about a team, what's interesting about teams, especially I think in this market, is that traditionally I've seen, this is me speaking from 250, I think we're on 8. In this interview, we'll be around 260 something. Agents get together and band together because the perception is great. But then the delivery as a group of agents, if everybody isn't enhancing, if you don't know your role and you're not adding value to being a cohesive part of something bigger than yourself, that's why they don't last, right? And it's, as real estate agents, why are we so ADD? We just want to go and pitch people and sell people, and then we win listings and there's drama and we wonder why. Organization. Exactly. And understanding not just how great you are, that confidence is key, but understanding your confidence comes from understanding them, understanding what they need, and having the backup and support and organization behind you and your own sharpening of your saw and preparation to deliver on it.
Correct.
I say it like I made it up, but that I'm repeating what I heard you say. I'm just like, I'm feeling it. So in that, has there been a moment in your career? I know for me, it's been, I naturally can sell very well. And then you get into a big deal and you were all moved on to the next deal and you saw the things you didn't do. But in your world, I want to ask you about you, and then I want to start talking about your observation of agents, because you, I mean, at Sotheby's, you guys have $200 million producers. I mean, you guys are.
Yes, absolutely. We have 1,300 agents within the company from Miami all the way to Amelia Island. And we have producers, definitely selling well over 200 million.
I'd love to learn the common denominator of who, like, you see an agent and usually kind of know if they're
Mhm.
going to make it, and the ones that make it, what's the common denominator of them. But first, I would also love to hear from you. What has been your biggest obstacle that you've overcome? And what did you learn from it to get where you are today?
My biggest obstacle on overcome on a personal.
Either or, whatever comes to mind.
Ooh, um, I would say my biggest obstacle to overcome has always been that I want to please everyone.
That's the typical real estate agent.
I want to please everyone.
Yeah.
And that sometimes is I have to understand that it's not possible. And
Oh,
so
yes. So, okay. So keep going, please. So
yes,
what did you figure out?
yes. So setting boundaries. It's I think that and being a mom of two now with two young children, and it's been something that I've definitely been working on for the past few years. But I think I want to please you always want to please everyone. You want to please your client. You want to please your teammates. You want to please everyone, and it's everyone has different needs and different requirements, and it's just a difficult thing to do,
And motivations.
and
How
motivation.
do you how do you know what boundaries to set? Because there are moments where it's a judgment call.
Absolutely. It's priorities. It's understanding your priorities very clearly. It's what really where you really need it at that moment.
And I
So
think it's understanding they're hearing upset people and being able to empathize, not sympathize.
correct. And especially now in this market, empathy is a very, very important quality. It's extremely important with all your clients. You have no idea what that person's going through right now on a personal or professional level. So before, you have a lot of people that speak out and are negative, and you don't know how you're affecting that person in front of you. So you have no idea. You have to have empathy with every single person you're encountering now. It's more than ever in this world.
And earlier, when I asked you about being a leader, one of the first things you said was is organization, and then you talked about and the way you spoke to it, understanding, like really, like in whatever capacity you're working in as a leader, really understanding who you're dealing with. Not yes, you have your priorities, but in dealing with them, understanding where they're coming from. Because if all you can see is your side of it and what your goal is, that's the roadblock right there.
It's not going to work if you're only focusing on your needs. You have to, as an agent and as a leader, you have to be focused. You have to understand who you're speaking to. That is extremely important.
And what is, and this is going to lead into, let's talk about seeing agents, and then we do have our final three. In your experience of being a leader, what, like, how do you do that? Because everybody thinks they know how to do that. Everybody's like, yes, well, I listened, I understood, and I watch, and nothing personal. But I'm like, no, you didn't. You just thought you did. Yeah, I will quote Chris Voss has a quote about projecting and empathizing. And I'm like, no, that was actually projecting yourself on them. You were seeing it. No, 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 no. That was not empathy. That was not understanding. What did I think we all go through that in life, is
Yes.
learning the difference.
So as a leader, I think that I would say my biggest priority in being a leader is is showing collaboration with my team and the people that I surround myself with. I think collaboration is extremely important. It makes everyone feel part of the process, and it makes everyone feel accountable at the same time. So whenever I'm running a sales meeting, or if I'm running an operational meeting, I like to hear everyone's perspective. It makes them feel heard. It makes them feel like they're a part of the process and they're collaborating. So I think collaboration and if you're a real estate agent and you're running a team, a successful team or any team, you want to make sure that every single team member feels like they're collaborating, because if they don't, they're not going to feel like they're growing, and then they're not going to last very long with you. Because at the end of the day, everyone wants to grow and everyone wants to feel important and appreciated. So collaboration is extremely important.
That segment right there, like that's the whole interview. The whole interview has been great, but that's it. collaborate. I can't hear you tell you how many times you hear the word compromise, and I'm like, what? Like lose?
Compromise.
That
No,
sounds
no.
like that sounds like everybody needs to lose. Let's just
Sounds
compromise.
like
Like, so we all want to lose. Collaboration's like, and if we listen and understand the things that are to be offered, to be open to that, because really what it came down to is getting input, hearing people, and even dealing with clients, they long to be heard.
Exactly. Exactly. So I think that with COVID, our mindset had to shift a lot. Our way of being had to shift a lot. And so it's all coming back to being more human and more empathetic, like you said earlier, not so much focused on the end goal and the transaction. It's being more, it's enjoying the process more and being more human about it.
Wow, be human. There's always this idea that I have to be somebody different when I'm at work.
Yeah, no. Just be yourself.
We need who you are. And the most successful real estate agents I have found show up as the best versions of themselves that they possibly can. And that's why they just keep flourishing. So we have a final three,
Okay.
but I'm going to make it a final four.
Okay.
I'd love to know, we've interviewed a lot of One Sotheby's leaders, and usually this answer comes out, and it already has, but I'm going to ask you directly. What is it? Because it's not a secret. One Sotheby's, I think you are the biggest affiliate of Sotheby's International Realty, and you're
Yes.
in the top five, if not like you're up there always, every year. What is it that makes, I mean, and frankly, I always want to remind people this is not like a paid show at all.
No.
And so this is speaking from the heart. One Sotheby's is truly a special, like now I'm going to cry, because One Sotheby's is really a special brokerage. But asking you as leader there, what do you think? What is the difference of one? What is it?
I can answer that very, very easily. I think we're one of the few brokerages that we put our agents first. It's clear in everything that we do. We all leaders, all staff members, we share that same mindset. So we've hired a group of individuals that we all share the same goal, and that's putting our agents first. Whether it's and every initiative that we do, it's the agent can feel it, the agent can see it. So our retention is incredible because of that. The events that we host, the initiatives that we create, the campaigns that we release, the agents can feel the support, and they can feel that we put them first. I think that's really what sets us apart. And when an agent joins us, they can see it instantly.
You feel it. And the marketing, I've been involved with you guys for 10 years as an agent and not as an agent, and the marketing, the heart, it's like, it comes from leadership. Exactly. The heart and passion you put into it, literally, like it or not, it's like the law of physics. It trickles. And the marketing, I said this, the marketing is unbelievable.
It's beautiful.
It's
absolutely. Yeah.
We
take a lot of pride in our market.
It's gorgeous. Okay, now for the final three.
Okay.
First question, what do you think has been your biggest resource in the success of your career?
I would say my mentor. Yes.
You want to expand on that, or is that it?
No. I mean, many people can consider that cliche because obviously she's the owner of the company, but I have a very special bond.
So it's obviously Mai.
Yeah, I have a very, very special bond with our owner, Mai. And ever since I met her in my mid-20s, I'm now in my 40s. I've been with the company for over close to 14 years. And I think that my biggest resource is having her leadership as a strong, powerful female.
She is a woman, a woman's woman, and she is true to who she is.
Exactly. And I value that more than anyone. I mean, it's definitely my biggest resource, I would say, for the last 14 years.
I didn't ask you this yet, so I'm going to go. We meant to ask you this, or I say we because we were supposed to talk about this. And this is a perfect segue, because in that, and then we'll ask the last two, what is the common denominator? We looked at, like, I love, because I don't think as agents we often get enough of, like, no, really, this is what it is to be a leader. We know how to sell, how to lead. In that, when you look at successful real estate agents, what do you see all in all, if you had to name one thing, what is the one common denominator of these multi-hundred million dollar producers? What is it?
Their strive, their persistence, their eagerness to move, to continue to exceed.
Heart.
Yes, it's their heart, their passion. I mean, I see it in all of them. Even when we're speaking to them, it's like it's never enough. They're always wanting more. So
well, it's like they live on a higher frequency.
Yeah.
And you just like let me be here with you. It's the best.
It's definitely contagious. Their heart and their strive is incredible, and I admire that very much.
Is there? And I'm hopping to the next question because I know we're on a time limit. Is there, or what is the book? If you had to name one, and you can name more, but if you had to name one, what would be the one book that you would say, this book has made a difference in my career? You've got to read it. Or life.
I read this when I was very young and my father made me do the course. It's the Daniel Carnegie book.
I knew it. I mean, Dale Carnegie. I love it. You're like, Daniel, it's Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, why did I say?
But it actually, I love that you called it Daniel Carnegie.
I just called it Daniel's, our president.
Daniel de la Vega, right? Like that's really what it was. That's the expanded version.
Dale Carnegie. That's what I meant to say. I'm sorry, but yes, I took the course and I read the book very, very young. You see, now I can't even remember.
See, now I've really made it worse for you. I love how your dad made you do it too. How to make
friends and influence people. That for me is a book that I always refer back to.
All right, if you had to sum up your biggest takeaway from that book and that course, what would it be?
Oh, now you got me. Oh no.
See, this is why we need 3 hours. 3 hours, but anyway.
It's like I said earlier, it's how to connect with people, connectivity. It's how to connect with them. And
listen, understand, back to the key.
Exactly. It's all about that. That's really, I've always lived by that. That's, I would say, my biggest strength in being a leader. And it's brought me to where I am today. So how
old were you when you took it?
I was 17.
I want to put my kids through it now.
I was 17.
They're only 10 and 12. Okay.
They're
going now.
Yes, in high school. So
they're actually great kids. But
and he did it to my brother as well. So
I love that. Yes. Okay, last question.
Yes.
If there is one thing that you hope we take away today from this interview, if we're going to just forget everything else, what is that one thing? I'm sorry, say that again. If there's one thing. If there's one thing you hope we take away, everybody, me and everybody listening, if we forget everything else we talked about, and we could only remember one thing, what would you say we got to remember from this conversation or from you? You have to remember of everything that's going on in the world today. Everything that's affecting people. Things are affecting people in a different way. And so when you're dealing with a client, when you're dealing with a friend, when you're dealing with a family member, when you're dealing with someone at work, always keep in mind everyone has things going on in their life. So it's tough when you see people being so angry or being so negative or being so disrespectful. Just you have to keep in mind what be human, like I said earlier, be kind, be empathetic. I think that for me is the most important. It's amazing how when you do that, it actually starts coming back. It does. It really does. It really, really does. And people are always going to remember how you treat them and how you make them feel. Great last statement. Thank you. Vanessa, thank you so much. It's been wonderful having you on and getting to know you. Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for listening to the Jerry Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. If you like this episode, please share it with friends. To find more episodes, search Jerry Metcalf Podcast on any platform for podcasts, or go to jerrymetcalfpodcast.com. That's JEREMETCALF podcast.com.